right now, we're going to bring in our special guest tonight, Ben Young. Ben, first of all, what have you been doing following the triple header at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, other than work?
Hey guys, thanks for having me back on. Yeah, just been working away, like you said, but also trying to relax a bit with my time and get some training. And work has been it's been very busy, and as you guys know, it's been really hot this past couple of weeks. So to come home and have the motivation to get out on the bicycle is it's been tough. But at the end of the day, you always think about the goal in mind, and that gets you going pretty good. So yeah, we're looking forward to next weekend at Calabogie. It's I'm just now the last couple of days coming on with a cold, so thankfully a negative COVID test came in, so we're not worried about that. But yeah, just need to shake off this cold, rest up this week from the training, and let the body heal, and be ready to go for next weekend.
Ben, let's go back 3 weeks ago, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, the first ever Superbike triple header. Weekend started great. You captured the UASA Battery Pole Award. We had Alex Dumas on last weekend, last week, talking about the qualifying situation there on the Friday, with the 25-minute session, then the top 10 guys moving on, and then the vote after they were going to go back to the original 25-minute session to set the grid. It wouldn't have meant anything different for you or Alex, but it did for a number of other riders, including both Jordan Royds, who I believe is on the show tonight as an attendee, and Jordan Zoe, where he ended up starting ninth. Take us through your version of what happened there, and then the protests where 8 of those 10 riders wanted to go back to the second qualifying session.
Yeah, it was a interesting circumstance of events, you could say. I feel that going as far as protesting the situation didn't need to happen, but if that's the way that the right things need to happen, that's the way you have to go. Unfortunately for myself, I was not there all week practicing like the other 4 of the top 5 was, so it made it tough right from the get-go for us, as we only got half a day with the McBride day, just with the rain. So we had to get going right away and practice on Friday there, and then obviously one practice right into qualifying, so we couldn't mess around anything. So yeah, we ran into this event and this circumstance of events in 2019. We had rain when none of us got a lap in on the qualifier tire, but we got some laps in, and yeah, I mean, it was decided to go. Most of us were fine with running what the times we had, but there was a certain rider that wasn't happy with it, and we ended up rerunning the session the next day, and we ran it the Saturday morning. I crashed into the wall at corner 2, and then fortunately enough was able to win the championship that afternoon. And then we had it this time again, the rain came and the same event happened, or the same circumstance happened, but then the same rider that didn't want to go back to that previous session in 2019 now wanted to go back to that session in 19. So there was a lot of tension in the pit, and right away CSBK made the decision to go with the previous session. And their explanation for that was that nobody had ran the qualifier tire. The qualifier tire was an option. It was never said that we have to run the qualifier tire. Neither Dunlop wasn't at the riders meeting saying we have to run this tire. Trevor was never going to run the tire because he's a guy that likes lap 3 or 4. That's when he goes quick, and he just can't go it right from the get-go. So he felt more comfortable using the regular race tire. So yeah, we went out on the regular race tire. all of us, well, I believe all of us did. I know Jordan, myself, and Trevor did on the race tire to do a lap. Trevor was just behind me. Jordan was a little bit in front of me. We come out of corner 3. I was coming out of corner 3, and Jordan was in the inside of 3. I finished that lap. That lap put me on pole. And then I came in, and if you watch the qualifying, Jordan came in, then Jordan put the qualifier tire on, and then it pretty much as soon as he leaves pit lane, we're all coming in, because even on I was coming in that next lap anyway to put the queue on. We come into corner 5, and it was like a sheet of ice, because obviously it was raining. And I guess Jordan seen the spits and tried to get get the lap in if he could, and it which makes sense. Like, I would do the same if you see the drizzle, and it didn't work. It didn't work for any of us. And yeah, they went on the decision that we had to run the queue, and like I said, that decision was never told to us, and we essentially could run we were on the understanding we could run any tire we wanted. So yeah, there was a lot of tension in the pits, a lot more than there really needed to be. But I was just one of those things. Thankfully, there's a lot of people on the, again, I feel it was the way that it ended up was the right situation. If we have a 20-minute practice and it rains in that practice, the clock runs regardless if it's dry or if it's wet. So it should be the same in qualifying. And I get it, we're trying to chase lap records. But it's tough. Could we have been there? I don't know. I don't really think so. The track is not as good as it used to be with the grip, and it's really, we're having to push a lot harder to get these times than we ever had. But then again, we did get the race lap record in race 3, so it's like, yeah, I guess the track is still good. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're trying to go for a lap record. It didn't happen, and which is unfortunate. It would be, all of us riders would love our names to that. But yeah, I feel like the right decision in the end was made. At the end of the day, if they did go back to the qualifying one, we all just wasted all the money on a set of tires. You have Thomas, who crashed into the wall for no reason at corner 3, and yeah, after the event that happened later on the next day, it's a real wake-up call, right? Look at how unfortunate Mike is in the current situation, and that could have been any of us going hard for that qualifying lap, and we're very fortunate we weren't in that situation. But that could have easily been one of us, and if that session meant nothing, we were risking our life for nothing. So at the end of the day, I feel like the right decision was made, and yeah, it's just one of those tough racing decisions, and it's you're never going to please anybody, or everybody, sorry. So it seemed to be the better off for everyone at the end.
Well, at the end of it all, you've got your second pole position of the weekend going into the 3 Superbike races. I don't think I've seen at one weekend 3 close competitive Superbike races like we had on that weekend. Was it as intense and close? And let's talk first of all about race number 1, where you took the win. How did you pull that off? Because certainly Alex was there. The Shaker was real quick on the Kawasaki, but unfortunately Jordan had an issue where he ended up finishing 6th. But how intense was the racing up front?
Yeah, the racing was great. I mean, 3 races in one day. It again wasn't obviously the circumstance we would have liked to be in, but for us, we were trying to get as many laps in as possible. We were pushing for CSBK to try and give us more laps, because our race pace for the 20-lap race was unbelievable. Like, we were watching what everybody else was doing, and everybody was losing it at the 12th lap. People were worried on if they were going to run the 0129 or the 097, and the 097 being the harder option, the medium essentially. And we knew that we had the pace and the softer tire, and so that was tough to not have that full race distance. But it was a big sprint race, and yeah, race 1 was fun. I didn't show all my cards. I wanted to keep, and knowing that we had 2 more races that day, I love the 5A to B inside shoot, and I didn't want to do that in race 1 because I wanted to save that. I didn't want to have that opportunity blocked in race 2 or 3. So yeah, race one I feel was to me, obviously my best race, because well, at least I feel that way because I won it. But I feel like race three was one of our best races. Like it was unbelievable. But what made race one and two, or one difference to two and three, was Alex and I's bike was very equal. Drafting down the straight, we could make drafting passes on each other. But once we had the Jordan in front of us, double drafting wasn't even an option. We had absolutely nothing for the straight line speed, and that just made it tough. That just really made it impossible for us. Trying to make every move you can where you can, and it's tough when you're riding that close, because it's not just one guy you're worried about. It's, you can't mess up, that corner, because you got to make the next corner, the next sequence, you got 3-4 guys behind you. So yeah, race two, I definitely feel like I backed off a bit and rode a bit cautious. And then race three, I was like, no, let's go. And when you see the footage of us on, those last laps coming down, we were 3 wide down corner 4. Like that's just not something that happens, right? So it was, it was fun racing. And I went for Jordan on the last corner on the last lap of race three, and I don't like to ride dirty. I don't make contact with people. It's not my thing. And I could have potentially made a move on him and won the race, but it would have meant touching, and that's not my style. And also the biggest thing for me is if we did touch and we ran wide, that would have gave Alex the straight shoot to the win, would open the door. We've seen it so many times in the past with Kenny and Jordan and Trepigny, and I didn't want to put myself in that situation or Jordan in that situation with us running wide. And for me in the championship, it was better off that I finished second behind Jordan than have Alex win it and me finishing third, worst case, or even worse, knowing that that Tremblay and Trevor and Thomas were right on it. So not the ideal race 2 and 3, but at the end of the day, we gained I believe it was 12 points on the whole weekend on the championship. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, we are 10 points behind going into the next round, but Jordan is 20 behind me, so he's 30 total. And it's still anybody's. There's lots of points to be had. It's not like World Superbike when there's only 5 points between 5 points difference from first to second. We have a broader spectrum of the points, so it's 10 points is essentially 5 points if you're looking at a World Superbike point system. So it's close. It should be good racing. I had a conversation with Colin last week, and we're talking about next weekend, and honestly for me, I want to go there and win the championship, but I also have a lot of positive things going on in my life right now, that if I go away as second place, that's not the end of the world for me. I have a lot going on, and just enjoying my life outside of the sport. And it's I'm going there to win it for sure, but I'll be happy with anything. I don't really feel like I have anything to prove. I've won a championship before, and there's no reason why we can't go do it again and go have fun and rub some elbows with these guys. And I just hope it's some good, clean racing, because again, it's 3 of us going for the championship, so it can be dicey, but I trust the guys I race with, and looking forward to putting on a good show.
Ben, at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, after you won that first race, were you sort of riding with the point system in your head, thinking if I finish second, here's where Alex needs to be? And, are you even thinking of those calculations, or you're just in the heat of the battle and just trying to finish as high up that podium as you possibly can?
Yeah, not so much. No, not in race one. Race two, I wasn't either. It wasn't until after I crossed the line behind Alex, and I believe you guys were saying it was potential photo finish, but I knew right away that I was third, not second. I was trying to square up, and I couldn't quite get there. But it wasn't until after race two, I was like, I really didn't need to lose those 5 points. And our biggest thing was the 2 points for most laps led. That's a real hit, and it's one of these. It's great when it works in your favor, but when you're not, it's a lot of points to lose. 2 points on that end of things. It's especially a track like most sport. It's not a track you want to lead most laps, particularly because you you don't want to show everything. You want to save it at the end because you know there's no getting away. When it comes to Calabogie, you might want to get out front and try and pull the pin and go. But when it comes to most sport, you know there's not really a chance to get away. If anything, when I took the race lead in race one, I wanted to get the hurry up to go because I felt like the race pace wasn't quite there. But at the end of the day, it shows you don't, leading most laps is great, but again, like I said, in most sport doesn't mean you can win. Alex leading most laps in race 2 and 3 and didn't win a race. So it's it is important, but it's you put yourself in a vulnerable position when you go for that point. But yeah, after race 2, that's when I thought, okay, I need to think about this, and hence race 3, I was okay with settling for second, taking the hit off of the points of Jordan, but knowing that he had the 6th in the morning race, made it easier to swallow. And like I said, we honestly had nothing for that bike down the back straight, and the only options we could do was 8, 9, 10 sequence. And I tried, again, when you see it, I tried outside of 8 to inside of 9. He had that blocked. So, and then outside of 9 to inside of 10, and that's when I just backed it off a bit. But yeah, it always runs through your head. But at Calabogie, again, I just got to go be Alex. And as long as we're not racing for 8th place and Jordan's winning, as long as we're right there, should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, prior to the show, I was looking all the various points, possibilities. If you win, where does Alex have to finish? And you're only 10 back of Alex, so you really hold your own destiny. If you go and win both races at Calabogie, regardless of what Jordan or Alex does, you're going to win the championship. Even if Alex leads, most laps in both of those races, you would have, a 16-point gap in terms of winning both races. And then even with 4 points for winning the extra 2 in each race, you would win the championship. But again, that's just one of probably dozens and dozens of possibilities, depending on where you, Alex, Jordan, and mathematically, there's probably more than, I believe there's 6 riders mathematically in the hunt for the championship, but realistically, really only 3. And some people would say it's going to come down to Ben Young on the BMW against Alex Dumas on the Suzuki. What about qualifying? How much does that set the tone for the races? You've got 2 pole positions so far. Are you looking to sweep the UASA battery pole position competition this year? Is that one of the goals for the weekend?
Yeah, it'd be nice to, because again, that's points right there. We get 4 points for pole and works its way back. So yeah, pole position would be great. It's something that we is nice at Calabogie, because it puts you on the outside to get the advantage through 1 into 2. So yeah, pole would be good. And again, that's not really something that's our main objective on our mind, but it is important again to get the pole. And yeah, the points, yeah, it is close. Like I said, I'm so open-minded going into this next weekend. It's not mine to lose. So I'm just going to have fun, race my motorbike, and then yeah, go put on a show for everybody. I feel we have all year, because I feel like it's been some great racing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting next weekend for sure. Thomas was really strong at round 1. He just had a little bit of an issue with the arm pump, I believe. So hopefully he can get that figured out. And Trevor was on a stock engine. So now with him, with his race engine back in the bike, I feel like he'll be very strong contender as well. So, and I believe also Sebastian is racing the Superbike next weekend. So it could be a very similar situation. The most sport could be 4 or 5 of us going for the win. So it isn't over till the fat lady sings. And yeah, looking forward to putting on a good show for everybody.
All right, I got a few more questions for you, but I want to go to Stuart Nodell. Stuart, anything in the Q&A, questions or comments for Ben?
Yeah, just a couple things I guess wanted to ask Ben is, did he notice all the fans and spectators at CTMP? Because I know I was there for the first 2 races and the place seemed full. I just wanted to know what it was like racing in front of a pretty good crowd again. Does that inspire you?
Yeah, it was really good, especially in practice. We have lots of family and friends that come out to most sport, CTMP, and they always park up on the outside of 3. So every time we finish the session, it's always really cool to see them, and also have like my good buddies from here. They always go out and camp up at the outside of corner 2. So yeah, it was really good. For me, honestly though, it not much different because I didn't race last year. And also, Calabogie is, there's no grandstands or anything like that you see. So I was racing in Calabogie for rounds 1 and 2. It was, I wasn't expecting to see people there. If I raced most sport last year, for sure, I feel like it'd be a lot more influential this year, seeing the differences. But yeah, thankfully for me, it felt pretty normal, and it was awesome. One thing I noticed on the Friday and the Saturday was I know they stopped selling tickets and you can show up at the gate and buy. And Saturday the parking lot was pretty empty. And then what that meant to me was, holy, like that means a lot of people are here camping, because I know they were I think they had 15,000 to sell, and I know they couldn't have been far off it. And yeah, it was great to go around and like I said, having my friends at these campsites and family outside the corner 3. I was going out, I was taking the pit bike out and visiting them, and it's just awesome atmosphere riding around and then seeing people yell at you, and yeah, it's it's nice to have that around, and us riders really appreciate that. So it gives us the extra motivation to put on a good show.
And the other comment Pat will ask Ben, since we asked the other 2 guys that were here, is the cool down lap after the 3rd leg at most sport. There's looked like there was a bit of an incident, but everybody had good fun after the fact.
Yeah, Jordan and I were congratulating each other. Jordan was on the right side of me, and we were coming into corner 2, and then all of a sudden, the track was left. So next thing you know, I realized I kind of pinched Jordan off to the grass. So we turned, he gasses out of it. Then I look over my shoulder to my left, I see Trev to congratulate him. But then also just in my far left peripherals, I see Alex coming on the other side. So I go to give him a high five. And this is, I can't remember who has the pictures, but this is all on picture. And you can see Alex comes up. And when he comes up to me, he hits my left handlebar, hits my right handlebar, which then pushes my bars that way to the left, and then causing the front to just disappear out from me. And yeah, I landed had rubber all up my arm from Alex's back wheel. My airbag deployed and slid down the pavement. And then Alex got pushed off to the right into the hay bales, and he didn't have a scratch on him because he crashed. I look over and all I see is him literally head first torpedo into hay bales, which sounds, I shouldn't be laughing, but it was just the funniest thing. And I ran over, I'm like, "You good?" And he's like, he was so shocked of what just happened. I was like, "You're good, like we're all right." I think he was worried that I was going to come over and lose my mind at him for knocking me off, and I thought it was the funniest thing. I'm laughing when I seen him. So yeah, a bit of damage to the bike, but we picked it up and rode it back, and the handlebar was really bent in, and I love wheelies, and I wasn't able to do any wheelies on the cool down lap. That was the only downfall on that one, but yeah, it's pretty funny moment, but don't need any more of those.
All right. Well, Stuart brought that up with Alex, so I guess for equal airtime, we had to bring it up with you to get your version of what happened. Stuart, I think we may have another question or comment for Ben.
We have one more question for Ben, and it's what advice would Ben have for an amateur racer moving up into the pro ranks coming up next year?
Coming up, I'd say try and wet your feet in sport bike first before moving into the superbike. Then again, depends on our schedule. If you do plan on racing the sport bike in pro superbike, you can get away with it with some tracks. With some, becomes a bit dangerous, like most sport. But the biggest thing is just doing it at the right time. Unfortunately, we see a lot of guys out there in our race that are not even on podium pace for amateur, never mind top 5 for amateur. which is tough for everybody. I mean, I wouldn't like to be in their shoes. I mean, I know if I was getting lapped by the speed that we go by, I'd be scared. So I think it's just making sure it's getting done at the right time. But yeah, just getting. I think the biggest thing is just track time and and being out there with everybody. When I went from racing 250 two strokes to 600s, I was always racing down in the States. So I did the sport that we used to be AME Super Sport, which is essentially their super stock, and then moved up in the sport bike. And I was always wanted, although I was never the best in the super sport before I moved to sport bike, I always wanted to surround myself with quicker riders, because that's only going to advance you more. So I feel it's important to get the most track time with the right people around you, because it's just like anything in life. If you learn to do something the improper way, it's just going to be a bad habit you can't kick. So if you can get in with the pros quicker, although as long as you're still safe and up to speed, it's more beneficial. You'll pick onto these small things quicker, and can be very beneficial in that way.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. And just if I could say one thing, Pat, I've had a lot of back and forth lately with some guys that are in the pro class, and I often wish that instead of just moving people up by points, we should be looking at their lap times.
Yeah.
Because, you get soft years where guys really aren't ready to go pro. And like Ben just said, I looked at some of the lap times, and even usually the fast amateurs will be competitive with some of the like mid-pack pros, maybe top 10 pros. But the differential now is pretty significant. Like there was a couple guys running like 13 seconds a lap off the pit. Like they would have went down almost 3 laps in a race, which I think is a huge safety issue. But that's a great race. Thanks.
Yeah, it is interesting for sure. I was actually last week there. I had dinner with Brad McRae, and Brad and I were looking at Calabogie amateur sport bike times, and Calabogie's pro sport bike times, and the times that Brad and Matt Simpson were doing in the race. I believe it was the race lap times we're looking at. Would have ran them like 6th and 7th. And that of pro sport bike. So that's good. That's a strong amateur year for sure. So, but you do get guys that, we had a guy doing, I think he was doing 132s at most sport, and we're going again. I think I got however they're deciding the lap record as I got it as a 20.8. So, and that was our race pace. We were doing 20s, like high 20s, low 21s as a race pace in race 3. That's a big difference. So like I said, I would be scared to be that guy getting buzzed by, but I get it. We need the bikes on the grid, but there's still a safety to it for sure. So
Ben, are you in favor of CSBK looking at a percentage of qualifying against the pole time, as they do in a lot of the organizations in the United States? Now, I think at one point it may have been as low as 108% in many years ago at Daytona. I think now it's more like 112 or 115. So we don't have that huge gap between the fastest riders up front and then the riders who are filling out the back end of the grid.
Yeah, for sure. I believe that's again, we have riders meetings every morning, and that's something that was brought up again at Mosport. Unfortunately, with the lack of corner workers, we weren't able to have blue flags, or at least I didn't recall seeing any, and I know I discussed with Chris Chappelle prior to. So that was something that we tried to enforce, but again, it's trying to get numbers on the grid, and so it does make it tough. And again, if you pay your entry fees, everybody's, you deserve to have your race. But again, there is a safety standpoint to it. But I think it's up to 112 now. I think when I did a wild card in MotoGP in 2009, I think it was 108, and that was tight. I just made it in, I believe, which is tough going against the best guys in the world. But yeah, it's I believe it's something that we should try and influence. But again, it's tough. There's lots of stuff going on behind the lines that we don't know about. So it's a tough one.
Ben, before you came on the show, you were talking about going up to Calabogie on the Thursday, getting ready for Friday's practice and qualifying, and then both superbike races on the Saturday. Since Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, have you spent any time on the superbike, and are there any practice sessions at Calabogie between now and the actual race weekend?
I have not, unfortunately. My dad was actually up at Calabogie 2 weekends ago, I believe. He got out on the bike for the first time in a couple of years, so he had a lot of fun. But unfortunately, I haven't. Just there's not a lot of availability out there. Trevor was up there today, I believe. I'm not sure who else was up there. But yeah, we'll just be heading up Thursday night. I believe there's a private event on Thursday. So as far as I'm aware, we're not allowed into the track till 5:30 in the afternoon. So or the evening. So yeah, we'll be ready to go first practice. We have lots of changes to make to the bike from round one to this round. So we're really looking forward to it. We're definitely missing a few things at round one, as we discussed last time. So
Yeah.
we've got all those empty boxes checked off and ready to go. So we'll get going with a new setup and yeah, be swinging.
After the Calabogie race, have you got any plans at all to do any other racing outside of Canada between now and the end of the year?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I believe our next race weekend is the final of the race from Moto America, which would have been great to go down to. That was our goal, but obviously the border's still closed. The Americans are scared of us crazy COVID Canadians, I guess, is what they're, which seems to be the complete opposite. But Brad McRae and I are actually heading down to Texas to watch GP. So that'll be the closest I'll get to racing is watching. But yeah, I don't know if any opportunity comes up, I would be very keen to. But with us running so late this year, we're pretty much finishing when everybody else is, when usually we're done super early. But yeah, my calendar's pretty stacked up, unfortunately, with work. And like I said, going down to Texas. So hopefully I can squeeze something in somewhere. And again, hopefully the borders do open up so we can get some riding down south. That would be great. You know, it's something we used to do every year. And yeah, it'd be nice to get back down to Jennings and see all the friendly people down there.
All right. Well, I see Henry DeGao is on the show tonight, and Henry apparently has got some really cool VIP passes that'll get him into the paddock at COTA. So maybe you can run into him down there. And we're going to have Henry on our show on the Monday night, October the 4th, to give us his rundown on the MotoGP weekend at COTA. Well, enjoy that one. Stuart, I think we still have a couple of more questions or comments for Ben.
Yeah, we just have a comment actually, Pat. It came in from Mike Walsh, who used to race a lot in the AMA through the, I guess 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even into the early 2000s. And he thought the percentage of pole time was about 107% when he last raced in terms of allowing riders to make the field or not. And I guess the other comment I would say to Ben, if Henry DeGao can't hook him up, our friend of the show, Yuji Kikuchi, is usually pretty good in the LCR team with getting people access into the pits.
Well, there you go. They'll need to get in there with that one. Yeah, very thankful that Parts Canada, obviously being a sponsor of ours, is able to help us out with some tickets through Parts Unlimited. So but hey, I don't know what their COVID rules are down there. A buddy of mine, John McPhee, he races Moto3 for Petronas. So John is, we're going to grab coffee with John, and we'll see if we can maybe sneak into the Petronas garage. And at the end of the day, Brad and I are only going because we want to see Valentino for the last time. I mean, that's why I'm going. We can kind of go to a GP any year if we want to, but with it being our last chance to see Valentino, we're going to take the opportunity and go. So we never know. Maybe we'll bump into him in the garage, and wouldn't that be cool? So we'll see.
All right. Well, we've got Henry lined up. Ben, maybe we'll drag you back on the show on October the 4th to give us your take on the event at COTA. Yeah, I think it'll be a great send-off for Valentino Rossi, everything that he has done for the sport. And I'm sure even when he retires with his involvement in the sport, he'll continue to be a great ambassador for MotoGP. And I think he's got plans as with Jeff Williams and Mike McNeil, who was on earlier, to go car racing. I don't think they've made a decision, but we'll see the doctor, I'm sure, on four wheels coming up maybe as early as next year. Stuart, anything else in terms of questions or comments?
No, the Q&A is all clear, Pat.
Okay. Ben, I know you still have some unfinished business at Calabogie coming up, but at this point, any thoughts in terms of 2022, what your racing program might look like, or is that too far down the road?
Yeah, it is a bit far down the road yet, but yeah, I don't know. I've got lots of unfinished business down in the States, I feel like, but again, it's tough. Who knows with COVID, and again with real life things going on like work, it's not as easy as it used to be when I was just going to high school and sneaking out of school with my dad. So it's now with work and being a homeowner and just everything else, just your general life, it doesn't make it easy. But if we can put something together that can fully commit to that and and kind of go back to the full racing mode, and as in flying into events and out, that would be obviously a bit more pricey, but on the other end of things, it means I could still get a lot of work in full time, and it could balance it out. So yeah, we never know, but either way, we're gonna, if nothing happens elsewhere, we're definitely going to be putting a solid Superbike program again for I think that would be our 6th year. And again, I've got no desires to leave BMW. Those guys have been solid for me over the years, and not only a great brand and great motorcycle, but the guys are phenomenal there, and such a pleasure to deal with. It's been like a very successful 5 years with them, and yeah, long may the future be great with them. So yeah, we're definitely we'll be planning on something regardless of what happens. So we'll be racing somewhere.
Ben, you touched on it a little bit, some of the difficulties you had with the actual motorcycle the first time the series hit Calabogie. The bike obviously was running very well with 3 podium finishes, including the win at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. How much stronger do you think the bike will be at Calabogie compared to what you rode back in early July?
Well, the biggest issue we had, Pat, was our clutch, as I think I mentioned before, and that alone is worth hopefully half a second a lap. Just with I just didn't have the confidence to break deep into 5 and also into Temptation. We just had a terrible chatter, and if you look closely, you can actually see it on the TV footage. The front is chattering just like your old Superbike without a slipper clutch. So we took apart the clutch, found a lot of wear in the ramp, just where the ball bearings, they essentially go in the ramp and they move, and they were just getting shunted in the ramp, and they ended up also kind of machining their own new home in the ramp, and where the ball bearing goes in the ramp when it releases, it's almost like a teardrop shape, and then as it gets bigger, it drops down more, the ball bearing, and they essentially just created a new home, and it just elongated the hole deeper even more. So that's where the chatter was. It was hitting that wall essentially and just getting bound up. So we have new ramps in there now, and it's unfortunate because there's nowhere at Mosport to replicate that situation. Breaking into 5 and 8 at Calabogie, you're going very fast in 5th gear, fourth gear, and then you're bang back 2 gears very quickly, and then throwing it in. With it Mosport, there's nowhere we do that as quick. We go into corner, we come through 1 in third, 2's third, 3's third, 4th, and then we back. I grab a downshift and into A, and then a downshift into B. So there's a lot of time between those shifts. And then same with 8, we're down 1 at 8, down 1 at 9, and down 1 at 10. So it's hard to replicate that real quick movement. So we're really hoping that this is solving our problems. If not, we have a other clutch. We run a Suter clutch in the BMW. So we have a STM clutch that Willie from Fast Performance Cycles brought with them at Calabogie in case. So if worst case we can't figure it out, we'll change the whole clutch, put the STM in, and hopefully that'll be our golden ticket. So I believe that itself is worth some time. And we also, going over data and the electronics, we've found some time there too. So I guess it's easy to talk about, but until we look at the timesheets and qualifying or practice, that's when the true test will be revealed. So fingers crossed.
All right, Stuart, I think we've got one final question or comment for Ben before we wrap up the show.
Yeah, we do. It's I guess a safety question, Pat. We've talked a little bit about it in the past. The Florida Motorcycle Road Racing Association has been utilizing bottle bag barriers as a safer method. Instead of using hay bales in other safety systems. Does Ben and some of the other riders, do you guys have much of a say in what's being used in terms of safety equipment?
Honestly, it's something we don't, but it's something we really should have. As you know, where Mike crashed was all hay bales. I crashed the top 2 last year, and unfortunately I crashed before the hay bales and I was straight wall. So I'm very fortunate to be what happened to me compared to what happened to Mike. So yeah, it's tough. Calabogie has a lot of bottle bags. Myself, a lot of Connor Campbell, Matt Simpson. There's a handful of us out there last time, and Matt's Connor's dad and his grandfather, Colin himself, Carol, Ross Milson, Sandy, Noche, Joe. We all were out there on the Thursday night before the national, putting out the bottle bags. And I feel like Calabogie, it's a very important place. But the problem we have with the bottle bags is we can't move the bottle bags. With air fence, we can pack it up into a box. One air fence bale would go into a foot square box, but also it's a lot of work to the next round. It's something that we do need to focus more in on the future. It's I believe there's a situation between the Canadian Safety Fund and the new owner of Shannonville. I honestly don't know enough to discuss it. So I just hope that whatever we do have in the future can be have more air fence involved in it. And it's these freak accidents that we need them at. Is it's, you can never predict anything, but even if we have old airbag that's essentially out of date, surely that's better good than nothing. So we can only hope that in the future we can get more. And it's definitely, like I said, something that we need to all stand up and speak more about.
Well, Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You've been very generous with your time. We wish you all the best at Calabogie as you go after your second Canadian Superbike Championship, and all the best at that weekend. And we'll be talking to maybe yourself, Alex, and Jordan, because you guys have certainly provided some incredible superbike racing, probably the closest we've ever seen in the history of Canadian road racing.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It is nice to be on here myself, so we can get a full chat. Because I feel like when there's others, we're always kind of chapping at the bit to sneak in there. So it's good, and we should try and get maybe if we're all still friends after the next weekend, I'll get all 3 of us on at the same time.
All right. Yeah. Well, we gave each one of you a Monday night, so you were socially distanced over 3 Monday nights. But have a great week, and all the best at Calabogie.
Thank
Stuart,
you, guys.
Did we have one last question or a comment there? I just saw something in the Q&A.
No, we're all here, Pat. Everything's good.
We're all good. again, our thanks for every one who joined us on the show tonight. Have a great week, and you know that weekend of the 18th and 19th of or 17th, 18th, 19th, big weekend at Calabogie. I'll be back at you know where I learned my announcing craft at Shannonville Motorsport Park for the final Super Series round. And most of you, or some of you may know, at the end of September, I'm going to be retiring from my Monday to Friday job of 37 years at Q107 and Chorus. So we'll have a little bit more time to do the real fun stuff with motorcycle and car racing. And in fact, this weekend I'm up at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park again for a brand new event called Drive Festival. A lot of exotic and rare cars, but a friend of the show, Peter Derry, is also heading up a big motorcycle display of vintage and classic motorcycles. So we'll see you back here next Monday night. Again, our thanks to Mike McNeil, who joined us earlier, and to Ben Young. Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Monday night on Track Announcer's Notebook.